In this video, I'm going to show you how to create cameras using Whippet and how to manage them and all the different settings we can utilize. For this, I'm going to create an entirely new scene and I'm going to have a little 3D environment. So for the remainder of the videos, for the documentation, we can see how to use all the remaining tools. So I'll go ahead and go to Scene Tools and I'm just going to hit New Scene. Here we can rename the scene. I'll just hit Village and then set the aspect ratio and the background color and hit OK. And now we have a brand new scene with a camera and a grease pencil object. But I'm going to go ahead and model a scene real quick. And then what we'll do is we'll get rid of all these scene strips so we can basically show you how to go from a blank scene and start editing 3D camera footage together. Okay, so here we have a little 3D environment with some houses, and I'm basically just gonna go ahead and put all this entire set into a collection. We can call it Village Set, and that way it's nicely organized and I can always grab it if I ever create a new scene. And then essentially I'm just going to show you how to create more cameras and how to use one scene with multiple cameras, and then how we can utilize scene strips as well as just play blast videos. I'll take you through all the different workflows, how we can export out images, things like that as well. So to start out with, I'm going to go ahead and just delete all of these scene strips because we're now moving into 3D. We're going to do something completely different. So just hit X, delete, and then I'm actually going to want to import any scene strip or video play blast to channel 5. So I'm going to switch that up here. So type 5, and then I'm going to want to start at frame 100. You'll notice that once you don't have any scene strips or video strips here, it'll like automatically switch your storyboard scene to edit. So I'll just go back to Village here. That way we are in our Village scene. When you use the new scene button, you do automatically get a new camera here. So that's great. That's just for quality of life. But to start from scratch, I'll go ahead and just delete this just to be able to show you. We'll hit X, and then now we don't have a camera. So I'll take you through all the steps on how to actually add a new camera. For now, I'm going to just go ahead and kind of close this because we're only focused on the dope sheet and this active storyboard scene. We're not really worried about the edit scene right now or the sequencer. So to create a new camera, you'll want to go to Camera Tools, and then here you can see your camera settings. And you can select from the lens kit, which was shown in the setup video. You can select from your different focal lengths for each respective lens kit. If you want a custom focal length, you can just hit custom, and then you can manually type or scrub what kind of focal length you want here. But if you have one selected here, then it will automatically use that one. Shot duration is for the length of the camera, so where it starts and where it ends. So it's 100 frames here, so you can set this to 50, whatever you want to do. Camera gap is used for storyboard, the 2D storyboard mode, where essentially it'll have a set number of frames in between each camera. So we'll get into that later in the next video where we go over the 2D storyboard mode. We'll leave this toggle off for now. Add camera gaps is a function where you can basically add space, and if you were to click it, everything on the timeline after where the playhead is will move over this many frames. So I'll show you that in a later video as well. And then all you have to do is just look for the kind of shot you want. You can just navigate around. If you need to reorient yourself, you can select an object. You can come up to view and hit frame selected. This will basically kind of just reposition where you're orbiting around. But let's say I want a shot like this, a wide shot that just kind of establishes the scene. Then you can align it like this and then select 35 millimeter and hit add new camera. And now the new camera will align to view. And if you come down here, you'll want to retoggle this if it's not already showing the camera strips. Every time you reopen Blender, you'll probably need to click this, so just keep that in mind. And then now here you can see we have our first camera .001 from frame 1 to 100. If you have your camera locked to view, then you can always just go ahead and slightly adjust it how you want. If you do not have this toggled on here, this lock camera to view, then as soon as you start orbiting, you'll you'll jump out of the camera. So I press C to jump back in the camera, and then toggle this on if you want to adjust it. From here, you have all your active camera settings, so you can quickly select the camera object. You can enable depth of field, set a focus object. You can adjust the focal length after the fact if you want to do that. You can adjust the clipping range, the start and end point here. So if you increase this value, it'll cut off the starting point of the camera clipping range. You can manually adjust the focus distance and the f-stop, and then you also have the numerical values for the location and rotation of the camera, which if you come into your properties panel, it's under object stuff. It's right here. But this is just nice to have more refined movement and, you know, ensuring that your camera doesn't have Dutch tilt. And then here you have camera view settings. So again, if you press view camera, it'll jump in and out of your active camera based on where your playhead is. You can lock camera to view. It's also down here. You can adjust the pass part out. If you have multiple cameras, you can hide non-active camera icons. So this is handy if you have like 10 cameras in a scene. It'll just remove all the camera icons that are in the viewport. You can add compositional guides here. So we have third, center, and safe areas, and you can adjust those in your settings here. If you turn on gizmos, this pulls up all the different like custom Whippet gizmos, and if you press N to hide, you also have a few more here. Basically, most of these here on the left are for actually manipulating the camera. So if you're inside a camera view, you can just like grab these guys. So this one's move laterally anywhere. This one's track or truck back and forth, tilt up and down, pan left, right, dolly in and out, and then crane boom up and down. Select the object. You can slide this one up and down to adjust the focal length quickly. This is the pass part out, so you can just drag left, right here. This is the camera icons button, which I showed is this guy here. So when you toggle this on, you'll see that this is blue. And then you have your guides as well. And lastly here, you can actually flip the canvas essentially on a per camera basis. So it doesn't flip all the cameras, it just does the active one if you want to check your composition. And then over here we have the different modes: object, draw, edit, sculpt, show in front. You can add a grease pencil object in front of the camera, and then you can add a grease pencil object at the 3D cursor. So for instance, if you do shift right click, the 3D cursor will snap anywhere on geometry. So this is handy if you want a grease pencil object like right here in 3D space, then you can hit this button and you can just immediately start drawing. The stroke is probably too thin. So if I do view and do 5, yeah, there you go. And then additionally, we also have a text overlay, so you can have additional information over the viewport like this. And there's a timeline and a sequencer overlay. So these basically allow you to scrub, it's a little tricky to see, but you can scrub the timeline up here, and you can scrub the sequencer down here, but we don't have anything in there, so I'll show you that in a little bit. Okay, now let's say we want to add another camera. What we can do is we can basically find our next shot. Again, we can hit numpad 0, and let's say we get closer into these houses. If you have 2D storyboard mode off, wherever your playhead is where your new shot will be. So if you want the shots to not overlap, then you'll want to move the playhead over here. And then I can just hit Control-Shift-F and I'll get a new camera. And then here you see we have camera 1, camera 2. And then if we scrub between them, it'll automatically just jump to the respective camera. If you scroll down underneath camera constraints, we can see the camera list here, which is also located in the Dopesheet end panel. So if you press N over the Dopesheet, you can get the same camera list here. This basically allows you to adjust and see all the different things for each camera. So you can change the in and out points like this. You can also hit the bracket button and it will adjust the ins and out points for each active camera. You can toggle on and off all the non-active cameras. So for example, if I hit this, then basically it deactivates all the other cameras. So you could just focus on one camera, especially if you have overlapping coverage. If you select reselect object, this is great for when you want to reselect a grease pencil object if you're going back and forth between cameras frequently. So if I go back and select this object that we created here at the 3D cursor, so if I just maybe redraw something here, if I do reselect object and I hit this button here, it'll jump me to the first frame of this camera. I automatically have that same grease pencil object selected. And again, if I go back to this one, it'll automatically reselect that previous grease pencil object, and then I can continue drawing. So that's how you create a new camera. If you want to duplicate a camera, you basically just want to make sure that you're on your active camera that you want to duplicate. When this comes up, it'll ask you which frame number you want it to start on. So again, if you want it to overlap and start exactly where the current camera starts, you can do that, or you can just go ahead and slide this to whatever you want. So let's say it's like 240, you can type that in, hit OK, and then it will copy paste all of the same data from the previously active camera and then just move everything over animation wise. So actually I'll hit Control Z, and then let's add some animation to this camera. So maybe we start at the beginning, truck left, right. I'll hit select the camera object so I can see the keyframes in the dope sheet. So you can expand this guy, and then I'm gonna go to the end here and just drag the truck. And so now when I hit play, we have a little trucking motion with the camera. And then if I want to duplicate this, and I'll set it to start at 240. So maybe we want to just take a second, take it, whatever's going on in the story. I'll hit OK. And then now it'll copy all the camera information, but it will have it so that it's starting at 240. There are a couple of buttons on the dope sheet that help manage the cameras and how you can view them. So the first one over here, the check mark button, is toggle all, which is the same thing here in the camera list. So if I hit toggle all, it'll turn off all other cameras other than the active ones. So now if I scrub over the deactivated cameras, it won't switch to them. You can turn that back on. This will also remember any camera that you have deactivated before toggling this button. So for example, if I don't ever want to see camera 2, but I want to keep it there in case for whatever reason, here you can see it's only going back between camera 1 and camera 3. And then if I toggle this on, it'll isolate camera 3. And then if I toggle it back on, then it'll remember that camera 2 was toggled off before. The clock icon will isolate and add a preview range to the active camera. So here, if you hit play, it'll loop through that preview range, and then you can always hit it again and it will turn it off and set it back to what it was before. The next 3 buttons are legacy buttons from Blender 4.5. So if you're using Blender 4.5, you won't be able to use the scene strip workflow where you have the sequencer down here at the bottom. You'll have to use the video play blast method. If you're using Blender 5.0 and you don't want to use the scene strip workflow and you want to use the video play blast, that's totally fine. You can then just use the dope sheet up here and you can utilize these buttons as well. The overlap shots button will prioritize jumping to the next shot if there's overlapping frame range. So for example, if I go ahead and just slide this camera to start around the middle of camera 2, we can toggle this on. And then if I hit the custom Whippet playback button, it will jump to the next camera. So here it's switched to camera 3 and go all the way through. And if you hit escape, you can stop the play. If you toggle this off and you hit the Whippet button, it'll play all the way to the end of this current camera and then jump to the next camera, even if it has overlapping coverage. And then again, hit escape to cancel the Whippet playback. Another thing to note with the Whippet playback is that it will jump the gaps between cameras. So if I hit play, it'll jump from the end of one camera to the start of the next camera, regardless if they're connected or not. Camera constraints can be really helpful. Using these 2 buttons here, they'll add drivers, just like the grease pencil VFX options. It'll have a driver so it's only active for the current shot. So if I hit shift right click to move the cursor here, I'm just going to go ahead and add Suzanne mesh here. And then, for example, with this mesh selected, I can hit parent to camera. So now if I want to do anything with the camera, or here you can see that it's already constrained to it, only for this shot alone will that Suzanne mesh object be parented to the camera. So if I click on Suzanne, I'll see all of the respective constraints that it has. And if I go to camera 2, you can see that it is no longer parented to the camera because it is only parented to the camera that you added it to. And here you can reference which camera it is. It'll say the camera number here, and then you can hit delete constraint if you don't want it. Aim constraint basically will have the object, it's great for grease pencil objects, but it will have any object just face the camera at all times. In the next video, we'll go over how the 2D storyboard mode affects adding new cameras and how we can utilize it with grease pencil.